Vislink has been actually trialing out some 5G wireless camera systems, and I was going to split this little bit of discussion into two things. One is to cover what Vislink has done to date, and then to talk about some of the issues that exist with existing wireless camera solutions and some of the problems and where we have seen the market going. So I want to talk to you first about this trial that we did back in the summer last year at MotoGP in Silverstone. We believe it was the first standalone 5G network for video broadcasting with wireless cameras. So I'm just going to play you a quick video that shows what was achieved. Okay, so that was a bit marketing-y, but I think what it conveys is that there are events out there which have many cameras, and in the case of that MotoGP event, there are cameras on multiple bikes and multiple cameras on multiple bikes, and that creates challenges for production. It creates challenges for RF bandwidth and all sorts of issues. We'll talk a little bit about those. So in terms of moving from an OFDM ecosystem to a 5G ecosystem, you mentioned this right at the beginning, where there's choices as to how you set up your 5G system. Are you going to go over the public 5G networks, or are you going to go over a standalone network? And really, at the moment, with today's technology, standalone private networks look best. They have the ability to put all of the control of that network at the broadcaster's heart. You've got issues of security, you've got the ability to get the bandwidth that you want, the latency that you want, lots and lots of different issues. And so at the moment, 5G standalone networks look like the way to go. I've mentioned non-contended networks. If you are producing sports content that may be worth millions and millions of dollars, you don't want the worry that when the public turns up and starts using their phone, that you could have network dropouts because of those issues. There are solutions out there that use bonding. They deliver different systems. They use variable bit rate encoding to allow you to get the story through no matter what bit rate is available to you. So it's about different needs for different applications, really. So I think that really shows about channel bonding and public networks. So what did Vislink do for that? So what we did is it was a proof of concept. We built it on the back of solutions that exist in the OFDM world. So it piggybacks on the Vislink OFDM encoder. That means that for this solution, we were able to produce over the 5G network the same pitch quality as you could over the existing OFDM network. It means that you can have OFDM and 5G simultaneously, which was useful on this particular trial. And so it enables us and our partners, Dawn and BT Sport, University of Strathclyde, to compare the differences of those two RF systems. In terms of latencies, I'm not sure whether this video is playing particularly nicely on my computer, but I'm hoping you can see here that on the left in this sort of fold-away box is the video output of the 5G system. On the multi-viewer TV screen, we've got the OFDM system, and they're both playing side by side. and we had to optimize that 5G network and the parameters there to get low latency. And in sports production, latency is particularly critical because you may be wanting to cut between fixed line cameras, wired cameras, and the RF cameras. And the RF cameras inherently have some video compression in them, which of course takes up some latency. And so it's important to be able to switch between those two camera systems. You know, you don't want to miss a piece of action. You don't want to see a piece of action repeated as you make that switch. Just to make it clear that there was similar latencies, there's a screenshot, and hopefully you can see the over-air gantry. There is a small time difference between the OFDM system and the 5G system, but they are pretty much very similar latencies. Compare that to a bonding system where a bonding system over a 4G or 5G network may have some seconds of latency. So we think that, again, a non-public network, a standalone network, may be the way to go for getting in low latencies. In terms of range, the range that we achieved, this is on the N77 band in the UK. That's a shared access band, which means that you have much greater chance of getting yourself a license to use it compared to trying to compete with the big network operators. This happens to be in the C band, about 3.7 gigahertz, if you're unfamiliar with those bands. And also on this particular band, you can have up to 100 megahertz channels. And so that does give you the option to be able to have multiple cameras on an event. The sort of range we got, it was a single radio head that was used, and you can see the sort of range that we were achieving on that system. So that sort of shows what is achievable. It was a proof of concept. There's more work that's being done within Vislink, but I think it shows how these systems could be evolved into something that's useful for the broadcast world. So on that subject and where this might take us, I was thinking a little bit about how 5G systems fit in with today's broadcast environments. We're talking about remote production becoming more and more important. We're talking about cloud production, and with 5G telco networks, you move that content inherently into the cloud, and it can support remote production. Obviously, those video feeds can pop up in a production center anywhere you want in the world. In terms of this slide, I want to emphasize those points about remote production that I think a lot of us will be familiar with. It enables you to put people in the broadcast center. It means fewer people traveling from site to site. That might mean lower costs. That might mean greater efficiencies in the way people work. It might mean better work-life balance for the people who broadcast those productions, because maybe they don't have to spend all their lives living out of hotels. We know that many people are now putting mandatory requirements on environmental impact, and obviously having fewer people traveling in the world helps to manage that. So that's all good, and we're finding those sorts of requirements being put into bids for equipment and solutions more and more as time goes on. But back to Ian's point about the interfaces and the protocols and how all this goes together, I thought this picture is a really good illustration of some of the issues and challenges that the industry faces. It's a Steadicam rig, it's a wireless Steadicam rig, but what you can see here is multiple audios. The two ladies on the pitch, they're having their own audio feeds. I see a video monitor for the Steadicam guy. Yes, that can be his camera feed, but it could also be a return video so we can see what's happening in the studio. And similarly, the on-screen talent could have a return video shown to them so they can interact more closely with the studio production. I see the camera operator with his headphones on, and so there's IFB, there's two-way communication there with the cameraman. I see a camera control unit attached to the camera, so there is someone adjusting the iris and the color balance online. And I'm thinking that camera control these days is getting more and more sophisticated. You know, there are OCP panels to adjust the iris, which are very much classic styles, but I look at some of the new systems coming out from major camera manufacturers where the OCP is being replaced by more of a tablet style thing. And all of those things make me think of bidirectional communication, IP communication, audios, having to synchronize audios and videos, and all of those sorts of things is technology that is developing in the IP world. And with classic OFDM cameras, as they stand today, it is very difficult to get that bidirectionality and that IP encapsulation into those OFDM camera systems. They're great for sending high bandwidth, high quality, low latency video over SDI links in a unidirectional fashion. It gets really difficult to do bidirectional and IP data. And so that, I think, is one of the major issues that 5G hopes to resolve. I put together this little picture to highlight some of the things that you could do with a 5G network. It's not just the video, it's not just the main video feed, it's the broadcast audio, it's the intercom. It's maybe that you want to move your connection between the broadcast center right the way out to the edge, right the way out to the camera person, the camera installation, and to bridge to other IP connected devices. So there's a private 5G network may give that capability. Now, I think the last thing from me was just observing what changes are happening in the broadcast world. Here, focusing on some of the cameras, not making any particular recommendations at all, but we are seeing more changes away to SDI interfaces into other types of architectures. And particularly, I want to think about SIMD 2110 as an IP interface for video. Also has the capability to carry audio, but also has other layers to it. I'm thinking of PTZ Timing Protocol, which may allow you to synchronize multiple cameras. Earlier, I mentioned that you do within the broadcast world, where you're using wireless cameras, have the problem of dealing with the compression delay of the wireless camera systems and aligning those to line cameras, which inherently have no compression. Potentially, you could then have the ability to do that synchronization within the PTZ protocol. That may give some benefits. You may find that maybe you don't have to drive down your wireless camera video to the sub or single frame latencies anymore. You could allow, if you wish, to have greater latencies in your wireless camera system, which might enable you to bring up the video quality, and that might benefit people with a bit more time to do that video encoding within the camera system.